Over.
Awesome. Have a great class.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us and welcome to a very starter class for embroidery. So today we're going to be learning four, in fact, basic stitches, and then I'm going to teach you some things about how to take those four stitches and really go ahead and create something. Doesn't have to be the same as mine, but just something using those four stitches. So we're going to take some time and we're going to go through something called the running stitch. We're going to go through a back stitch. I'm going to teach you some French knots, and I'm also going to teach you something called the satin stitch. So with those four beginner stitches under your belt, once you feel more and more confident with that, you can really use those to fill in a whole design. And then we'll talk about how to get the design onto fabric and onto different things like that. But we're definitely going to start with those four basic stitches. So those of you who are live with me today, I would love to know if you've ever done this before. If you're truly beginners, or if some of you just need a little bit of a refresher. But I love embroidery. I love that it goes in and out of style all the time. And of course, right now it's back in. And then you have some really cool things like the show Bridgerton on Netflix that's kind of bringing embroidery back because all the women of the ton are just sitting and stitching together and things like that. So I love how embroidery comes in and out of pop culture and different things like that too. And it's just a really fun skill to know. It can also help you with some basic sewing skills as well. So it's something that can make something beautiful and can also be useful if you just need to hem something or make a quick adjustment to something. So I'm so glad that you're here. It looks like we have a couple people who've tried cross stitch before, and we have a couple people who may have dabbled, but for the most part, we have a lot of beginners, true beginners. So that's exciting for me to kind of help you along on this journey. So let's go ahead and switch over to my other camera. I don't know a thing. That's hilarious. I'm so glad that you're truly beginners. That is really good. So this is kind of the finished project of what I'll be working on with you today. I'm going to teach you those four basic stitches. And one of the first stitches is called the running stitch. So a running stitch creates something like this that's a dashed line. And then when you take those lines and fill in, you get something called the back stitch. So a back stitch is taking those dotted lines and doing one extra stitch backwards in order to fill in those blank spaces. Then we also have something called a French knot. And these little dots, they truly look like little knots. These are great if you've ever done cross stitch. You might have used French knots to make little eyeballs if you're doing people or animals or something like that. So those knots are called French knots. And then this stitch right here, that's kind of a filler stitch that looks really nice and satiny, is called a satin stitch. So a satin stitch is great for filling up space, but it does take a lot of time because that's a lot of embroidery floss right there that you use in order to fill up that space. So those are the four that we're going to put together into something like this. I suggested on the shopping list for today that you can either use something called Aida cloth. And Aida cloth is what people are used to for kind of cross stitching and some traditional embroidery. So it's a really thick, it doesn't bend very well. It's very thick and it's very heavy. And it definitely has these holes and it has some woven fabric into it. So this is what they call Aida cloth. And this is great for true beginners or great for someone who's never actually tried, because you're going to be able to keep your stitches nice and even because there is a basic grid built into this cloth. If you feel like you don't have Aida cloth or you just want to try something different, I'm going to do my finished project on just regular cotton fabric. So it can be a cotton fabric of whatever color you want to, but just a nice piece of cotton fabric that we're going to put into a hoop to stabilize it, and we're going to stitch through that cotton fabric. Now, I've also done a class earlier in the year where we stitched directly onto a pair of jeans. So you can embroider onto some different fabrics. Denim is hard to do, but it's not impossible because you can literally just take a needle and keep going through that. You just might need a thimble so that you don't hurt your finger when you're trying to push through some heavy denim. You can also make patches and do all sorts of fun things once you learn these basic steps. So in order to show you some of the basic stitches, I'm going to use a piece of felt, but feel free to use either your Aida cloth or feel free to use some of your cotton fabric. If you don't have something thick like the Aida cloth or like the felt, Then you can go ahead and put your fabric into your hoop. So I'll show you how to do that in case you need to be able to do that. And I'm hoping that you have maybe 2 pieces of fabric so that you can do like a beginner, just practice some stitches on one and then have another nice piece ready for your final project. So when you're using one of these embroidery hoops, today I'm going to be working with 6-inch hoops. You can get these hoops in lots of different sizes. They come in plastic and they come in wood. Either one of them are just fine. You can probably find some that are square rather than circle too, but circle's a pretty traditional embroidery hoop. So it is that hoop shape. So I'm taking these 2 pieces apart, and this is my innermost ring. I'm putting the fabric down over top of this innermost ring. And then I'm putting the top ring back on, and I'm grabbing it and putting it into this hoop and tightening the top of this hoop. So it's like a screw top, and you just keep going in order to get this tighter and tighter. And then you do want this fabric to be in here kind of like a drum, pretty taut, or as taut as you can get. So I cut a pretty small piece. It would be ideal if I had some more left over here so that I can kind of pull that down. But I was just putting this in here real quick to show you. So once you have either a piece of fabric in your hoop, or you have a piece of felt, or you have a piece of Aida cloth, we're going to go through some of the stitches. Now, just to kind of break it down for you, you don't have to write this on your material, but I'm going to write this down so that I can kind of show you. Here's what we're going to do. I have some dots, and I'm going to write down some letters so that I can easily tell you where we're going with our stitches. So I'm going to label these letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Dinner and a show. All right. And then I am going to start threading my needle. So I have an embroidery needle, and the difference between an embroidery needle and lots of other kinds of needles is how large the eye is. So an embroidery needle tends to have a larger eye because embroidery floss is thicker than normal thread. So somebody in the chat's asking what's the best way to get the fabric really taut with the hoops? That's a really great question, and that's something I think everybody struggles with. But having more than enough on all the sides is definitely the first step. So that's going to keep me from getting mine too taut because I don't have enough overlap over here. But then you do have to continually I use my finger and I'm pulling it out. And you can also keep tightening this as you go, but you are going to need to keep tightening it as you go because it's just natural that it tends to start to loosen as you go. So I'm going to be using some loops and thread embroidery floss also. So I'm taking a piece of embroidery floss, and embroidery floss comes in 6 strands. I don't know if you know that or not. So this whole piece of floss is made up of 6 tiny strands. So I don't want to use all 6 of the tiny strands. So I'm actually going to separate them, which is the first challenge for your eyeballs and your fingers. So if you can see that there's 6 different threads in here, I'm going to take 3 of them. So I'm basically pulling this in half. Now, when you grab 3 of those strands and start pulling the other 3 strands in the other direction, this floss down here is going to start winding. So be careful and do it as slowly, kind of like pull and peel licorice. Just pull it nice and slowly. If you pull it really fast, it will get into a knot very quickly. But you can kind of keep pulling it apart, and then you can keep pulling down on that center part that's unwinding. So pull apart, and you can pull down on that center part to kind of give it a tug to let it know it's okay for it to unwind itself. And then I have managed to go from 6 strands down to just 3 strands. And I'm going to take these 3 strands and I'm going to kind of wet them or put them together and go ahead and thread my needle. This is the hardest part. So there are things that can help you thread these needles. You can use a larger eye needle. You can also use a needle threader. which is like a little piece of wire that goes through the eye of the needle and grabs the thread for you. But I managed to go ahead and put that through. So I'm leaving it through with about an inch, inch and a half. Ooh, wax on your thread is a great idea too. Thanks for putting that in the chat. And then I'm going to go to the end of my stretch of embroidery floss. I don't have a ton. I probably have about 14, 15 inches because I don't want to get too much because then it just has the possibility of getting tangled the more I have out. So not a ton of it at a time. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie a knot at the end of this thread. And I'm going to tie another knot on top of that just to kind of give myself something big to keep it from coming through my felt. And it's okay to have a tail. You can cut that later if you want to. But the first stitch we're going to talk about is the running stitch. So with the running stitch, I'm going to come from underneath. I'm going to come up through point A. I'm going to go across to point B, which is going to leave a stitch. And when I go down at point B, then it's going to hide because it's going to be underneath my fabric. And I'm going to come back up at point C. So the first step is to poke your needle through and come up at point A or as close to point A as you can. And then you're going to go down through the fabric, pushing down with your needle at point B. And then you're going to come up at point C. So I poked through, and if you missed the first time, try again. Just poke through another place before you pull the thread all the way through. So now I've poked up at point C, and I pulled it all the way through. I'm going down at point D. I'm coming up at point E. And what's nice about me having already measured out some dots or using the Aida cloth is that you're going to keep your stitches nice and even. So you're going to alternate coming up and going down and coming up and going down. And that's going to create this dashed line, which is what we call the running stitch. Now you can leave the spaces in between as big or as small as you want. It's nice to keep it as even as you can. So if you stay with this large of a stitch, keep making that same size stitch all the way around. If you make a very tiny stitch, if I did half the size of that, then I would just make a whole bunch of that same size stitch as well. So now that I got to this last point H and I'm on the bottom, I'm going to tie a knot. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to wrap it close to the fabric. And I usually use my pointer finger to kind of keep the knot where I want the knot to be. And I'm going to do it one more time just to secure it. Here we go. And I have my first running stitches. Then I can cut this off with some scissors, but I'm going to keep this needle threaded and I'm going to keep this embroidery floss going to be able to show you the next stitch, which is the back stitch. So I'm hoping you were able to catch on with that one pretty easily. And then when you turn that into putting it onto fabric, you're just going to be in charge of how big your stitches are and how straight your stitches are. And the more you practice, the better you'll get with that for sure. Okay, I'm going to label this next set of dots A, B. Let me know in the chat if you need some help or if I'm going too fast. So this time what's going to happen is I'm going to come up through A. I'm going to go down through B, just like I did. I'm going to come up through C. And instead of going through D next, instead of going to D and doing that dash line, I'm going to go backwards to B, which is why this is called the back stitch. So it seems like some people are still getting their thread. Just take your time. I know this is weird, but I usually, when I'm pulling these two pieces of thread apart, I put the middle piece in my mouth to kind of like hold it because I'm a weirdo and that works for me. And then that kind of helps me keep that piece in the middle pulled down so that it can unwind a little easier without getting knots. I'm glad somebody else just told me they did that too. So phew, it's not just me. Okay. So do you ever try the one thread at a time method? Great question. So we are currently using 3 of the 6 strands. I could use all 6 if I had a big enough eye on my needle to fit all 6 through. And if you want something super delicate that's barely going to be noticed, you can use just 1 strand. You can use as many strands as you want to in order to be able to do it that way. Oh, and someone said the 1 strand at a time. So if you're taking your strands apart, instead of trying to pull these and getting this twist, this licorice twist that I was talking about, some people just pull out one and then pull out the next one and pull out the next one and then put all 3 of them together. So both of those are a great idea. So thanks for reminding me about that one too. So here we go with our back stitch. It's very similar to the running stitch. I'm coming up through point A. I'm pulling all the way until I get the knot. I definitely have some advice about transferring patterns, and I'll get to that on the next part. I'm going to go down at B, just like I did for the running stitch. I'm coming up at C, so everything is exactly the same so far. Now, the only difference is I'm not going to go to D, I'm going to go backwards to point B. And what that's doing is that's filling in that line and making a solid line instead of making that dashed line. Now from here, you have choices. You can come up at D and go backwards to C, come up at E, go backwards to D. So you can keep coming up that extra one and going backwards, or you can go up through C and go to D and go backwards that way too. So it's up to you where you want to go, but I'm going to go to point D and go back to C. Then I'm going to go to point E and I'm going to go back to D. And I'm continually going back to fill in and create a back stitch. Cleverly named, I would say. Great. I'm going to do a couple more of these stitches and then I'm going to tie my knot. So far we have a running stitch and we have a back stitch. Running stitch is great just to add some little fun detail. A back stitch is great for doing outlines. So I did the outline of my vase using the back stitch. Back stitch is also really good for if you're doing lettering, if you're doing any kind of words. You don't want to leave that dash line with the running stitch because you want people to be able to read it. So I am going back to the previous hole. So I would come up at this point, I would come up at H and go back to G. And then I would come up at I and go back to H. Come up at J, go back to I. So it's always going backwards. It's coming up one ahead and going back and filling it in, coming up one ahead and going back and filling it in. Yep. Okay, I have this tied off. So I'm going to now do the French knots. So down here at these dots, I don't need to label them A, B, C, D, and I'll show you why in a minute. But luckily, when I was pulling off the thread, I have another set of 3 strands that I already did. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to go ahead and put this through my needle. And I'm going to show you the French knot next. Okay. And I'm leaving a little bit of a tail. I'm tying a knot at the end of my thread. And the French knot gives like some very fine detail. Like I said before, a lot of times people use it in cross stitch to make eyes or to make little berries inside of flowers or little pollen inside of flowers, things like that. So I'm going to pick one of these dots and I'm going to come up through that dot and I'm going to show you this French knot. So I pulled all the way through to the knot. And then the way you do a French knot is you take your needle and you go parallel to the fabric, and then you wrap the thread 3 times around the needle. And while you have that thread wrapped around the needle, you go back through, not through the same dot, but through close to the same dot. And then what's about to happen is when I pull this all the way through, it creates a knot. And those 3 rounds that I put around the needle are what kind of create the thickness of that knot. So I could do a couple more rounds, but it's eventually going to be like a coil. It's not going to be a nice round knot anymore if I do too many wraps. So let me show you that again. I'm going to come up through this point, and then I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to wrap the thread around 3 times. 2 or 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to put the point of the needle pretty close to the other side of the hole, just to give it a little bit of space, not through the exact same hole, but very, very close to it. And I pull through, and I've created another French knot. I'll do it one more time. Coming up through this dot. And you don't want to do your French knot way out here. You want to put it a lot closer to the felt. So 1, 2, 3 wraps. And then push through very close to where you came up, but not in the exact spot. And I have a French knot. So this is our running stitch, back stitch, and a couple of French knots. I'm going to tie a knot off here, and then I'm going to switch over to something called the satin stitch. And that's the last stitch that we're going to learn today. And then we'll talk about how to transfer pictures, how to create something on a hoop, how to do all different kinds of things to get us going. So what do you do if the knot forms too high on the cloth? Great question. So if your knot ends up being up here, there's a couple different options. You can try to untie it. Obviously, you can cut through the back and take out the last one and then start again if you want to, by putting a new knot on the back. But really why that's happening is that when you're wrapping the thread, you're wrapping it too far away from the fabric. And so then there's a lot more room for it to get tight further up rather than closer to the fabric. So what you want to do next time is when you pull your needle up, you want your wraps to be as close to the fabric as you can. So you're not pulling the needle very high above the fabric you're working with. Great question. Okay, the next thing we are going to talk about is the satin stitch. And the satin stitch is quite lovely to be able to fill in some spaces. I made this really adorable, cute little paw print the other day. And one of the techniques I can tell you about for transferring designs that seems to work really well for me is a stamp. So if you have some kind of design that you like or that you want to use, and you happen to have a stamp of that design, then it is very easy to just go ahead and actually stamp on the fabric and give yourself that imprint. And then you can go through and do your stitches on top of that imprint in order to decorate it in the colors that you actually want. So this is a good idea for you to do it this way. Somebody's asking, is it best to make your stitches, oh, I missed it. Is it best to make your stitching right on top of the markings to cover the pattern? Yes, and if you don't cover the pattern completely, you can always do a second. So for example, when I drew the vase onto the paper, if I didn't quite get all of that pencil line or the line that was outlining my design, I could go back and make it doubly as thick in order to kind of hide that line. There are definitely pens that you can use on fabric that are washable, that if I wanted to wash this, I could go ahead and get rid of all of that. So I love the stamps. I think it's a good, cool thing, especially if you have like letters and words and things. I don't like my own font handwriting, so I love it if somebody else can write something for me, or if I have a stamp that says something that I want it to say, and then I just go back and embellish it, which I think is nice. I've also seen a lot of people use fabric that already has designs on it. So let's pretend like this already had pictures of flowers, and then maybe we just make some of the leaves 3D by adding embroidery floss on top of it. So be creative. You don't have to start from scratch on your own projects. You can kind of be creative and come up with some of your own things. So somebody asked, do you need to use distress inks? Because you saw that that's the one that I happen to be using. No, any kind of ink will do. Do be careful, because if you move your hand across it too much, you might spread it out a little bit. But really, any kind of ink was fine. And then I was able to cover up all of that ink with my satin stitches, so I'm not worried. But if you want to match colors and be like that, that's always a good idea too, especially if you're a beginner, just in case you don't think your stitches are going to cover everything perfectly. So let me talk to you about the satin stitch, and then we'll talk some more about transferring. So the satin stitch is great for filling in space. So let's pretend like I have a space, like this circle. So if you're following along with me on your Aida cloth or on your fabric or on your felt or whatever you're using, kind of draw yourself a pretty small shape, something that's a closed shape. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you how to use a satin stitch to fill that space up. Somebody asked, does the distress stamp ink wash out? And I feel like they're permanent. So I wouldn't imagine that they would wash out very well, but I'm not positive. So I'm not entirely sure about that. Usually when I'm doing these, I'm doing like wall hangings or gifts. So it's not something that I'm usually going to wash later, which is why I think the stamp works okay for me. So I'm going to pull apart my threads. And I'm just going to use 3. If you want to use more or less, you can. And I'm going to keep gently pulling these apart. And I'm trying not to put it in my mouth, which is very tempting because, like I said, I hold the end of this in my mouth for whatever reason, and that helps me keep this when I'm unwinding these pieces. You can see how easy it is to quickly get a knot, so you do have to be careful. Someone also suggested earlier that you just pull out 1 thread at a time, but I am apparently too impatient to do it that way. So I like this challenge, and I think I'm going to do it. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle and make a knot and show you how we can kind of fill in all the space. Felicia, are there other questions that I might have missed by chance?
I think you're doing pretty good.
Yay. Thank you. All right, so I got it through and I'm going to the end. And I'm using a little bit more because the satin stitch will take up a lot of embroidery floss. But I still don't want too much because I don't want to get the opportunity to have too many knots or get tangled. So there are lots of ways to do the satin stitch again, but the idea is to keep the same stitch going in the same direction and make a bunch of parallel lines and just kind of stack them up one right next to each other in order to fill in a space. So I'm going to come up through this bottom of the circle, hit my knot on the back of my fabric, and I'm going to go across and make a nice straight line. Now, that's my first stitch. I have the option of then coming back up on this end of the circle and going down, coming back up, going down, coming back up and going down, and just keep making that straight parallel line. So I'll show you that. So I'm going to come up through the circle right next to the original stitch. And then I'm going to go down right next to this original part of the stitch. And it's okay if you have a little bit of space in between because we can always go back in and fill in. But the idea is to keep making these stitches right next to each other. So this does take a lot of time and this does take a lot of thread, but you're going to make stitches right next to each other in order to fill in that space. Now, I'm purposely making a gap right here. And someone asked a great question. They asked, why did you start in the middle, you crazy person? And I start in the middle because I don't know what the edge of the circle looks like, but I do know what the center of the circle looks like. And so I like to build out from the center and go out this way and then get smaller and smaller. I don't want to start at the small and get bigger because then I feel like I might accidentally make a triangle instead of a circle. So I don't know if this is just something that I do or if lots of people do it this way, but you can jump around. So you'll notice that I have this gap right here. you can jump around with your stitches and you can go to whatever side of that you want to. And you can just keep laying down stitches as tight or as loose together as you can. But then you can always go back and either do another one on top of it to kind of close up any gaps, or do another one next to it to make it nice and tight and solid. But I'm just going back and forth. And the goal of the satin stitch really is that as long as your stitches are all parallel to each other and all kind of line up in the same direction, it's going to look really nice and very satiny, very elegant, just to have all those stitches in a line next to each other. So I like to go in the middle and kind of jump around, and then you'll see that I could at any point start going off to the other side too. Even before I finish this side, you can jump around. It's just a matter of making sure that all of your stitches are going in that same direction. Here we go. So you can jump around and you can fill that in however you'd like to. Now you'll notice on the back that because I keep going up and down in that same kind of circular motion, I'm using a lot of thread. If you're worried about running out of thread, instead of me going down to the bottom of the circle and coming up and going down to the bottom of the circle and coming up, I can go a smaller stitch next to where I just put a stitch. And then that's going to save the amount of thread that I'm using on the back. So that's another reason why I jump around instead of going one right next to each other, is because a lot of times I'm jumping around. So right here, I just came down. I'm going to come up over here. And so I'm only using that much thread on the back of my paper instead of using a whole entire stitch on the back. Hopefully that makes sense to you. But it's just a way to kind of preserve and have to thread your needle less, which is always the goal in cross stitch and embroidery and sewing. The less times you have to stop and thread your needle, the more fun I bet that you'll have. So there's that. So that's the kind of thing that I do in order to save some of the threads. And I'll show you on the back what that looks like with my thread saving techniques as opposed to the other side. So see how I just have these little bits of thread here and here? So those are the only bits of thread I used instead of using all of this thread when I was going back and forth in that circular motion. So options, those are options. And I can keep going and fill this in, but I am going to move on to showing us how to put it onto some fabric. Okay, so I have a piece of just plain cotton fabric, and I'm actually going to take this one out. So the first technique I showed you was using a stamp. So find a cool stamp that you like, outline it. You can even color it in using Sharpie markers or different things on the fabric, and then stitch over top of them. And then that kind of gives you the freedom to not have to do the whole entire piece, because you have some color underneath that's still going to give it a good design without having to do all the stitches. So right now I have my inner circle underneath my fabric. I probably should have pressed this or ironed this, but I didn't. And then I'm going to put this hoop over top. I'm going to tighten this at the top. And I'm going to pull this taut. Pull, pull, pull. Now, another way besides using a stamp that I love and that is very good for beginners are stencils. Ta-da! So this is something I labeled in our Cricut class the other day. So Michael's has lots of really good stencils. You could do animals. So this is like a kangaroo, a fox. So imagine like doing a little outline of a fox and putting like a little boy's name in it or something for a nursery. Like that's adorable. Also, what's great about these is that there are lots of letters and numbers. So I also think it's nice to do like, maybe if somebody's getting married and you want to do a little thing for them that you put like their initials like J and K or something like that. And so you can use these paper stencils. And then what's nice about a stencil is you literally just go in with a pencil and write directly onto your fabric. So a question is, how do you end the stitch? And I think you're talking about the last satin stitch we were doing. And the way you end it is just when you cover the whole entire space you want, you just tie a knot on the back side. So you'd end it the same way we've been ending our other stitches. So option 1 is a stamp, option 2 is a stencil, and option 3 is going to be a little bit of a creative way that I've kind of adapted. And I have a couple of paper patterns. So I got this kind of image and have played around with it. I really like it. And I think that Felicia is going to be able to share this in the chat if you're interested in grabbing it. She's on top of it. Felicia, you're amazing. So I have this paper that has the vase. It also has like a rainbow, and I think it has a little bookshelf and a plant or some mushrooms. So maybe if one of those 4 patterns kind of speak to you, I'm going to show you how I transfer them. And again, I'm sure there's 1,000 other ways, but this is the way that my brain has decided to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut down the stencil, not perfectly, but just cut it down. Now, if you have a light box or if you have access to a window, you can put the, oh my gosh, this is easy. I didn't think it was going to be this bright, so I'm going to show you the other way that I do this. But if you have light underneath, it's very easy to be able to see your pattern. Literally take a pencil, take a ballpoint pen, take a light marker. Again, it depends. Do you want it to wash off? Do you care if you can see the lines? So do accordingly what matters to you. But you can go ahead and trace that design just by putting it underneath. I was going to tell you that you can add a little bit of masking tape and hold it up to the window if you don't have a light box or you don't have a way of getting it to shine through. Now, if you're working on a darker fabric and that's not working, here's the crazy Megan method that you may or may not want to try sometime. The crazy Megan method is to kind of take your needle and kind of poke through the pattern. So I don't know if anybody else does it this way, but this is a method that I use because sometimes I want to do something quick and I don't want to wait. And so I'm literally poking through and kind of giving myself this outline. And then I would put it on top of my fabric and then go over this with a marker. And so when I go over that with a marker, the marker kind of comes through the slicing that I do and puts the lines in the right place. So I know that's a weird method, but that is another method I use. Now, there are great companies, and Michael sells this too, where you can have this, I don't know what it's called. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but it's a paper that you can put into your printer and then you can put it onto the fabric, like iron it onto the fabric, and it can dissolve off or it can wash off. But again, I'm not really one for washing my embroidery once it's done. So I don't want a stencil that stays on that I sew over top of. I usually want something that I just draw and then I go from there. So whatever method you need to do, if it works underneath, like it's working really well for me underneath, you can go with it that way. Or if you need to hold it up to a window, or if you need to do my little needle trick and kind of give yourself a thin line to go through and then take a pen or a pencil through that. So somebody said my grandmother would lightly cover the pattern with pencil. Yes, another great idea. So what you're talking about is like a transfer. And you can use transfer paper, but again, I feel like the graphite tends to get messy on the fabric, and that kind of gives me a hard time. But what this person in the chat is saying is that they do a little pencil rubbing on this side, on the bad side, and then when you trace over top of it, it leaves just that little bit of pencil lead on the surface, so you're ready to go again. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of tape so that I can trace this. And I would say that the whole entire piece that I did with the vase and with these leaves, this probably took me about an hour and a half. So embroidery is something that it's great if you are bedridden. It's great if you are um, waiting for children outside of ballet or whatever they happen to be doing. So it's something, a good productive use of your time that's fun and enjoyable and relaxing, but it does take time. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and trace this. And if you have more questions or more suggestions, please let us know in the chat. This is a great conversation. Thank you. So this particular design was kind of giving me like kind of regal, kind of elegant, and nice. Pretty simple lines to follow and options on how to keep embellishing it. You can start to get super fancy and you can start to add seed beads, which would give it a little bit of glitter and give it a little bit of a 3D jeweled effect. So I've gone over all those lines with my pencil and I'm ready to be able to take that back off. And I know that some of you are still tracing and some of you are still working, so that's okay because we're not going to be able to finish this whole thing together, but I am going to kind of get it started with you. So I'm going to follow a pretty similar pattern where I'm going to do some purple on my vase because I do really like that color. Maybe I'm going to choose a little bit of a darker purple this time. And I'm going to start by following my lines and doing a back stitch. So especially since some of you are so new, it's going to be a little bit tricky to do a back stitch on a curve, but I bet you're going to catch on very quickly. So I'm choosing to use 3 strands, but if you want this to be even more delicate, you can use just 2 strands or 1 strand. That part is completely up to you. Pull these apart. Try and go slow so I don't create a giant knot. And if you are having trouble threading your needle, do yourself a favor and either get a larger size needle or like I said, there are those needle threaders that are little wires that go through and grab it for you that can make it a little easier on your eyes. And I'm going to thread this through and I'm going to tie a knot just like I've done on all the rest. Leaving that little bit of tail. So the amount of floss that I think I'm pulling I think it's about 18 inches. So not too much, but not too little. And someone's asking, what do you do when the work is done? Is it a picture to be framed? So sure, I can take this, and something that a lot of people do is they do a little running stitch around it, which then they pull and you can gather all this extra fabric and then it makes for a nicer finished surface like this. And you can hand it to somebody like this. You can also take this off. So have this fabric. And then some people take this fabric and like put it into a card. So picture me having some cardstock around this so that it kind of frames the embroidery. So you can turn it into a card. You can turn it into a bookmark. You can do this onto actual clothing. You can do this onto felt. And once you do this onto something like felt, then you can cut around and you can use some adhesive and you can put it onto backpacks. You can put it onto zipper pouches, and you can actually kind of make your own patches using like a felt backing and then using an adhesive underneath, either ironing it on or using some sort of hot glue or something to attach it. So that's a great question too, about what to do with it when you're done, besides be really proud of it. So I'm going to start wherever I want to. I think I'm going to start at the bottom of this vase, and I'm just going to come up at the bottom of the vase. And I'm going to pull all the way through until I get to my knot. And then I'm doing a back stitch. So I'm going down and I'm doing a fairly dainty back stitch, pretty small, I would say. And I'm going to try and keep all my stitches about the same length. So I'm pulling my thread through. And then remember with the back stitch, I'm coming up, but I'm coming up about that distance away from my original stitch so that that distance is about the same as the stitch I already put down. And remember that the back stitch goes back to fill that blank in. And then I'm going to come up. And when you start to get some curves, you might need your stitches to be a little bit smaller to make the curve make sense and to help it look right. And I'm always coming up a little bit ahead of, and then going back to, and filling in that space. And the back stitch is great for outlining. so I can outline my whole vase using the same back stitch. If you do any kind of lettering, I highly recommend using the back stitch because it's going to be easiest for people to read. I also recommend if you're doing letters rather than just the vase, that you maybe do 2 lines of it or 3 to kind of make it bolder and make it be able to stand out a lot better. And then this is just that repetitive motion that can be really relaxing and really calming if you need a great activity to kind of be mindful, or to just kind of go numb after a hard day and just watch TV and do something that doesn't take too much thinking, but you're still creating something beautiful. So I got a little bit of a knot back here because I have a lot of thread. So if you ever kind of get a tangle, sometimes you can pull the tangle apart by pulling up on a loop if there's a loop in your knot. And sometimes that can help you undo that tangle, just like that. And if you're worried about the edges of this fraying, or if they're pretty close, you can always wrap it with masking tape. That's something that a lot of people do to keep their edges from fraying. But for me, I don't really mind because I'll probably end up hiding all these edges later. You can always hot glue them back here and just kind of hide this. And you can put this on a nice stand too. So if you have like a little art easel or something, you can kind of display your work, or you can hang it on the wall, whatever you want to do. And this is kind of what we're doing. So I'm going to keep working on this, but if you have any questions, let me know in the chat if there's something I can help you with or something you need a little bit more information about. But we are using the Loops and Thread embroidery floss, and I'm using this wooden hoop. So this is a pretty inexpensive craft too, which is nice, and it definitely travels well. So you can take it with you if you're in a waiting room somewhere and just kind of help you have something to do with your hands while you're waiting. Can help calm some of that anxiety and give you something to do. And because my fabric is very nice and light, it was great because I was able to trace my design so well. But what might not be great is that if I decided to come up over here, if I brought the thread all the way over here and jumped over here to start working, see how you can see my thread? You can see that line of my thread through since my fabric is so light. So I want to work pretty close so that I'm not making extra marks that are a part of the design that I don't want to make a design. So someone just asked if you can make a pillow. Yes, you absolutely can. So this can just be stitch whatever you want to. And then I recommend ironing on a stabilizer on the back to keep anything, so everything on this side kind of gets glued to that stabilizer, and then go ahead and attach the other piece of fabric to finish making your pillow. So that's a great idea. And someone also mentioned something about a quilt, and I know that when I was younger, for different organizations and stuff, they would give everybody a piece of fabric and you would kind of come back and we'd put all those fabrics together to make some sort of quilt. So this would be a cool way to decorate your particular square if you're making kind of a community quilt sort of thing. And if you run out of floss, just when you get to the back, you're going to make a knot and start over and keep doing the same thing. So someone's also asking on the leaves, do you just use 3? Do you just keep repeating the satin stitch over and over again and to make it thick, or do you use more than 3 pieces of thread? So I still use I still use 3 pieces of thread, but I just kind of stack my stitches pretty tight to make that 3D effect. If you want it even poofier, you can always put down some stitches. I'll show you. I'll jump up to the leaves in just a second. You can make some stitches and then stitch over them if you want them to be even more 3-dimensional. So I'm going to stop on this bottom of the vase and I will go up and kind of show you how to fill in the leaves with the satin stitch because I think that's a good idea. But remember that you can use your back stitch and you can use your French knots in order to kind of decorate the inside And you can just make up stitches too, just kind of make little etchings and different things. But I'm going to go ahead and switch over to green and show you a little bit of the leaves before we go. So I'm going to take this like minty green. And I am going to just use 3. But if I had a larger needle, you could fit in all 6. The problem with the larger needle is sometimes the point of the needle is going to be more blunt, less pointy. And so it's going to leave bigger holes in your fabric. So since I'm working with such a fine cotton fabric, I wanted to use a pretty sharp embroidery needle that was pretty pointy and not one that was going to leave big holes when I made my stitches. So I'm going to try and get myself some of this green. I'm going to try and thread this quickly for you. Thanks, Felicia. Yeah, so I do have an Instagram channel. 4M Coleman is my personal Instagram. And then Michael's has an Instagram channel called Learn with Michael's that focuses all on our online classes and different events and different things that are going on to teach you different things of how to do projects and how to do classes. So follow us at both of those if you have Instagram. And if you're working on this, I'd love to see your finished projects. So feel free to tag Learn with Michaels or add that hashtag so that we can share your design with somebody else. So I'm going to use a back stitch to do the lines that kind of are the stems. So I'm going to lay down 1 or 2 of those back stitches to get to one of my leaves. I'm going backwards and filling that in. And then you have options. So I'm going to show you these because I think you can see them pretty well on here. So for this leaf, I took the stitch in this direction going kind of horizontally, and I made a lot of small ones. On this leaf, I went the other direction with it, and I made long stitches. So it's really up to you if you want short stitches going across, if you want to do stitches at a diagonal, but whatever you start with on one of these portions, keep doing that same stitch over and over and over again right next to each other to fill in that whole space. So don't do some this way and some this way on the same thing, but it's okay to switch directions on the different leaves, and that will still end up going really well. A month of practice. Yeah, I think you'll be surprised. I don't think it'll take a month of practice. I think you're going to pick this up really quickly. So for this leaf, I'm going to go kind of horizontally across. So you'll notice I started in the middle again, just because that's kind of what I like to do. And I'm making a horizontal stitch going across. And then every other stitch that I put up here, I'm going to make in the same direction to fill it in. So I'm skipping a little bit, but I'm doing my thread saving. There we go. And I'm going to keep skipping around a little bit, but I am still doing that exact same direction for that leaf. So this video is going to be available on YouTube. So if you do kind of take away from this and keep working on your project, and then maybe you forget how to do the French knot, but you want to add some decorative French knots into your vase, you can always come back and watch this video on Monday, and it will be available for you to watch over and over and over again until you learn all 4 of those basic stitches. And just feel free to use those stitches however you best feel fit. Can you use linen? Sure, but I think it's going to be tough. I feel like it's a pretty thin fabric, but I don't think it's any thinner than this one I happen to be using right now. So I think you can make it work. I believe. And you can always use a stabilizer to make the fabric thicker and then stitch through it. But what's troubling with that is that it gets gummy, like because there's an adhesive. So when you keep putting your needle through that adhesive, thicker fabric, then your needle starts to get sticky and it starts to get pretty messy. So I'm not going to teach any other stitches today, but if anyone else would like to continue, that's good feedback for me, and I can do kind of a next step We can learn a couple more stitches if you want to together, and we can keep learning a couple more. Fabric thickness, yeah. So if you're a beginner, I think a thicker fabric rather than the super thin one I'm using right now would be helpful. I also think if you're a beginner, that Aida cloth is great because it's going to help you keep your stitches straight, and it's going to help you be able to keep nice and even stitches. So I'm filling in this whole space right now. Yay, we want some more stitches. I got so excited I threw my camera. Thank you for letting us know in the chat. That's great. And then once I kind of fill this in, I can go all the way around these stitches with a back stitch to kind of do like an outline. And I can choose to do that outline in the same color, or maybe I could use a darker green to kind of give it a dark green outline to all of it too. And then that really pulls it together and shows everybody that that's a leaf. So I think that this is great. I see some of you. Oh, yes, Christine. Dang. Okay. Teapot. I love that. So I see some of you are making along with me and making really good progress. I'm impressed. So congratulations. But yeah, keep working. And if you get a finished project or even an unfinished project and you want to kind of share it with the group, I would love to see that. A month of practice, you're going to need a couple more stitches. So yeah, let's practice up on these and then we can meet up for another quilting bee or stitching club and kind of just enjoy each other's company and stitch together. And I'll keep working on this one and show you what I end up with on my 4M Coleman Instagram if you want to check it out later. And you can also check out some of the other classes that I teach. I teach lots of different kinds of classes, and feel free to sign up for any Thursday and Friday classes and just join us. It's a lot of fun. All right. That is it for me. I'm going to show you my finished project one more time. So here's my vase, and I have those nice satin stitches. I have my back stitches around the vase. I threw in a couple of running stitches to kind of add some extra lines in my design, some French knots. So we learned 4 new stitches in 1 hour, and now you have the power to be able to fill in your design with all kinds of cool things. So thank you so much for coming again today. It was a great time stitching with you, and I hope to see you again soon in another class. Bye.